Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to day 2 of my 12 days of Christmas. We're edging ever closer to that big day. Today I'm going to be a first time watch, the Santa Claus 2. So let's talk about it. So 8 years after the release of the first Santa Claus movie, Disney decided to do a sequel entitled The Santa Claus 2. Now this was released here in the UK in 2002 on November the 29th with a runtime of 1 hour and 44 minutes and a budget of $65 million. The film would go on to gross $174 million thereabouts at the worldwide box office. Now this film was directed by Michael Lembeck, and saw the return of Tim Allen as Scott Calvin, Eric Lloyd as his son Charlie, David Krynholtz as Bernard. Judge Reinhold would return as one half of Charlie's new primary parent care group, his mother and stepfather. In this time round, we were introduced to Elizabeth Mitchell, who played Charlie's head teacher at school, a character named Carol. Now Elizabeth Mitchell we know from stuff like Lost, V, the TV series, Purge election year. She's been in quite a bit of stuff, recognisable face. And Spencer Breslin played Curtis, who was essentially like an elf that was like the Q of the North Pole, who'd make things and, you know, had his hands in all this sort of stuff. So this film is set 8 years after the first, and we meet Scott, who Father Christmas, who's in the North Pole. He's one of the best Santa Claus the elves have ever worked for, but he's inexplicably losing weight. Now he's been there for 8 years, but it turns out that there is another clause within the clause that he took himself into. Within the Santa Claus, there's a very, very fine print that says that he must get a wife, so hence Mrs. Claus, and if he doesn't by a certain time period, he will cease to be Santa Claus, and Santa Claus will be no more, and thusly this takes him on a path of trying to find a suitable mate, shall we say, for want of a better term. Now Charlie, you know, he's at school, but Scott finds out that he's been put onto the naughty list. Now, the reason he's been put on the naughty list is because he's out doing graffitiing and defacing school property and this sort of stuff that brings him into conflict with the school's head teacher, Carol. Obviously, Scott heads back to back home to find himself a wife and sort out this problem with Charlie. Now, this leaves a sort of void in the North Pole. The elves can't know that Santa Claus has gone and disappeared. So, between Bernard and Curtis, they decide to make a robotic version of Santa to replace the real Santa. Only as the film progresses, this version of Santa sort of becomes more Hitlerish, shall we say, in that he wants to, you know, run the place to the rule, no fun, no joy, just to give everyone coal, this sort of thing, while Scott's away trying to sort out his problems. Now obviously Scott gets involved with Carol, and yes, they start dating and all this sort of thing, and then they have to save Christmas. So that's the primary story of the film. Now, let's get into my thoughts on this film. Now, I found the first film to be a very mature story because it had those themes of parental breakup, of you know, of what it does to a child and what it can do to the estranged parent and this sort of a thing. You know, the mental health implications and all this. So I found it to be a very, very, very enjoyable adult-themed film in a sense, but that could also be enjoyed by children. Now, with this one, I was expecting more of a sort of DVD territory sort of film where it's just literally a Christmas film and nothing more, and I wasn't way off with my expectations. Now, where this film sort of, the highs and lows of this film for me was I enjoyed the stuff of Scott visiting home and his interactions with Elizabeth Mitchell's Carol and all this sort of stuff, more than what I did with the goings on at the North Pole with the robotic Santa Claus. Now, yes, this is a children's film, I know that, and I'm viewing it through an adult's eyes. So for a child, it's all wonderful. It's all like, you know, spectacle and this sort of thing, because you've got some grandiose set designs within this film. The North Pole looks fantastic. The sets that were created for it, they look really beautiful. But then when you get to the other end of the scale, when you're in back home with Scott, some of the scenery there looked wonderful when he's on the sleigh, on the quiet snowy roads, with Carol, this sort of stuff. It looks really, really good. So visually, the film is very, very nice to look at. Obviously, it kind of drops the ball with some of its special effects. Considering it's 2002, I thought special effects were in a better place then than what they are shown to be in this film. You're still relying on animatronic reindeer and you know, some of the flying scenes are questionable at best. But the film offers up a two-part story, like I said. You've got your North Pole stuff, you've got your stuff at home. And for me, the stuff at home was far superior storytelling than what the stuff at North Pole was. Obviously, the stuff at home is more adult storytelling, I should say, with a relationship, whereas the stuff at North Pole is more the sort of kiddie-friendly stuff of the film. So, but there's a clear divide between these two sections within the film. But nevertheless, Tim Allen gives a fantastic performance, again, as the Santa Claus, as Scott. You know, he's very likeable within the film. Elizabeth Mitchell is fantastic, what can I say? She's pretty good in anything she does. Eric Lloyd, I'll be honest, I didn't even realise it was the same boy that played Charlie in the first film. I did question whether it was the same one. And bear in mind, I only watched this one a few days after watching the first one, or a week after. So, you know, yeah, I didn't realise that, but 8 years had passed, and that's a lot of growth for a child. Spencer Breslin as Curtis was great. David as Bernard, very good. Judge Reinhold was just there to prop up proceedings, so to speak. He didn't have too much to do in this film other than be there. His interactions in the first film were somewhat better than with Scott than in this film, because in this film they're friendly and it's a nice sort of family dynamic and this sort of a thing, and they're welcoming him into his home, as opposed to in the first film you had the sort of stepfather, real father sort of at loggerhead sort of thing going on, which is more fun to see than what you get in this film. But nevertheless, the film was directed competently, acted very well. The set designs were fantastic, like I said. Wardrobe in North Pole looked very good. The design, I like the design of the Santa Claus, the robotic version, with the sort of, you know, the sort of plasticity of him and the hair and the beard and all this sort of thing. That was all very good. If not acted a bit over the top by Tim Allen. But nevertheless, a wonderful film altogether. Not as good as the first one, nowhere near as good as the first one, but I can see why this would be enjoyed at Christmas, especially by children. Anyway, so that was my review for this film. Just a quick chat, and I'm wondering what do you think might be tomorrow. Can you guess? But anyway, so this is AJ. Thanks for watching. Please consider hitting the subscribe button, hitting the notification bell, leaving me a comment down below. I do reply to all comments. Anyway, so I'm off. I shall see you all later. Take care all, and goodbye.